Kshitij Agrawal, and I have received a placement of full-time placement offer from Microsoft. I'm familiar with Microsoft and one of its all-time favorite and successful products, Windows, and it came to hire specifically for SWE roles. So SWE stands for software engineer. So the process consisted of three parts, if I may break it into three parts. So the first part was an online coding round. It consisted of two DSA questions, and these have a good knowledge of pointers that really helps. So please learn JavaScript. It really boosts your skills as a programmer.
Hi everyone, welcome again to UpScale Talks. So this video belongs to a series wherein we have gotten some of your seniors. So this is basically a placement experience, sharing their journeys, how did they land into the dream profiles. And for today's session, and also we are starting with the software profiles or the tech profiles that are usually in the industry. So we thought, why not start with the buzz or the the master of the industry. So we have gotten Kshitij Agrawal. Kshitij is currently placed at Microsoft. So hi Kshitij, how are you? Can you let our viewers know how has been your journey, or tell us about yourself?
Sure, Rashid. First of all, thanks a lot for having me here at UpScale Talks. Hi everybody. I'm Kshitij Agrawal, and I have received a full-time placement offer from Microsoft, and I have interned at Rule Zero Technological Solutions, a Bangalore-based startup. And I'm currently interning at Chaos Genius. Again, it's a Bangalore-based startup, and I work there as a backend engineer. And let's find out in the due course of the interview much more about how I cracked Microsoft.
Okay, sure, Sean. Kshitij, that would be very great. That would be great. I would say indeed. Now we can, I think, move ahead with the session, and I know a lot about Microsoft. There are a lot of people who know about Microsoft. Still, I would ask you to tell us something about Microsoft, and then we can move ahead with the placement procedure. How did it go? What was all of the rounds, and details about those rounds. We can find out that later.
Sure, Rashid. We are all familiar with Microsoft and one of its all-time favorite and successful products, Windows. So there's no need for an introduction there. But apart from that, Microsoft is also a leader in providing cloud services. So there are multiple avenues that a person who is going to join Microsoft can look forward to work as a part of. So if I talk about the process which was involved while in the recruitment procedure for Microsoft. So
Sure.
therefore, I went through two technical rounds, and there was before that there was one online coding round. It had two DSA questions.
Okay. Kshitij, can we just move ahead with the presentation as well in the side due course?
Sure, Rachel. If I may, Microsoft was one of the first tech companies that visited DTU, and it came to hire specifically for SWE roles. So SWE stands for software engineer. So the process consisted of three parts, if I may break it into three parts. So the first part was an online coding round. It consisted of two DSA questions, and it was hosted on a platform which I'm not able to recall as of the moment. But so it was fairly easy, and maximum of the people were able to clear the online round. So in the second.
Yes.
So as we go further into the recruitment procedure, so there were multiple tech rounds that were held. For some students, two tech rounds were held. For some students, three, or for some four tech rounds, two were held. So in my first technical round, so what happened was the interviewer asked me to introduce myself, and the second thing which was posed as a question to me was a DSA question. So it was a question based on strings, and I was able to solve that. And after that, the interviewer delved into the projects that I had done. So there was there was a project which he found to be really interesting, and that was based on reinforcement learning. So he asked me to explain that in depth, and he asked me questions related to the project. That was said and done. And after that, I was able to clear the first technical round. And in my second technical round, again, the interviewer was quite interesting, and he asked me to introduce myself. And the second thing which he delved into were the internships that I had done. And so that was pretty serious because we had a long discussion about the internships, about the various aspects of my internships, what was the goal that we were trying to accomplish, and some of the technologies that we use. So these were some of the things that were discussed during the the segment in which he was discussing my internships. And after that, he gave me a DSA question to solve. So the DSA question was based on pointers. So it went quite deeply into pointers. So as tech people might know that we are not very adept with pointers, but yes, he did wanted to judge me on that aspect. So I might suggest that please have a good knowledge of pointers. That really helps. After that, he asked me a bunch of questions related to operating systems. And after that, he asked me as to where do I see myself after 5 years? What is my long-term plan? And so after that was done, so the round ended, and I got an update after quite some time that I was selected. So I went through 2 technical rounds, but some people did go through 3 technical rounds, and an optional HR round was also held for some people.
Okay, okay. So Kshitij, as per my understanding, that what I gained out of the talks that you made. So it was moreover around your CV. So am I wrong on this, or how do you answer to this question? That
No,
what important does CV play an important role once you are into the interviews and the segments about that?
absolutely, Archit. See, if I may talk about the process, if I may just answer your question. So, the issue is that there is only a specific amount of DSA that the interviewer can ask you, and there are a limited number of operating system questions which the interviewer might ask you. Given that you are an undergrad, but what helps keeping the conversation interesting are the projects and the internships that you have done. So they make the conversation lively because it involves a lot of practical experience. A lot of questions can come up because the process is really interesting, and you might have faced a lot of challenges in your internships or by doing some personal projects of your own. So they can ask you a lot of questions related to that. So it's always a good idea to do some internships before sitting for your placements, and also have a good number of and have a small number of projects, but have some good projects because it increases the scope of the discussion. So that the interview is just not about data structures, it's just not about the algorithms which might have learned, but it's also about the practical experience you might have gained out of working on those projects and on those internships.
Perfect, Kshitij. So I think that was, a very detailed answer to the question that I asked you. I think now we can move ahead and let's talk about your journey. How have you been preparing since the day one at the college? So did you have when you joined the college? So what all plans did you have in the mind that yes, I will be selected at Microsoft or not? So, and how did that journey shape into getting further and further?
Achit, I didn't think that I might be able to crack company as Microsoft when I had joined college, because I was one of those students who had never coded before. So it seemed like a long shot, but so as to get on par with everyone who had an experience with coding, I straight away delved into learning the basics of the language C++. Began learning about the various algorithms that were involved while you go through the entire journey of learning data structures and algorithms. For some time, I also did competitive programming, so that helped me in increasing my bank, or as I can say, my knowledge bank of the various algorithms that exist. It helped me improve my accuracy. It helped me improve my speed. So giving these competitions regularly, they were a huge plus. They really improved my skills as a coder. And for some time, I also delved into some machine learning stuff. So did some projects in that, went through some algorithms. And after that, before the placements started, I thought that it was necessary that I get some practical experience, as it might give a huge boost to my CV. So I interned at Rule Zero Technological Solutions. So it's a Bangalore-based startup offering some financial services.
Okay. So I have a question over here. Like a lot of our viewers might be having that which language do they stick to, right? Because there are a lot of options available. So can you just answer this question? If they're pursuing X thing, so they should be pursuing Y if you have the knowledge in that.
Sure. So see, Ajit, languages like Python, because everybody, when they come to college, they come in contact with these hype, hype words like machine learning and data science. So all of these definitely have their own plus sides, but understanding how the language works or how some data structures are coded out, what are their implementations, those are really important aspect or a very important part of being a CS student. So I would definitely suggest students who are just picking up coding to just start with languages like C++ or Java or C, so as to get a better understanding of how certain things which exist work. So those help you in gaining root level understanding, and you gain an appreciation for those concepts. And after that, it is very easy for you to transition to the other languages because the huge library support really makes it easy to accomplish certain tasks. But if you have an understanding of what goes behind that black box which exists, so that really helps you in appreciating CS as a field, firstly. And the second thing which it helps you is when you deal with high level stuff further on. So that really makes it, it makes it relatively easier to catch on with that stuff. So supposedly, when you gain an understanding of working with languages like C++ and Java, so if you have an interest in web development or you think about like let's explore it, so there are certain things which you can do, like there are markup languages like HTML, and you need a good understanding of CSS and JavaScript. So, and yes, coming to JavaScript, so please learn JavaScript. It really boosts your skills as a programmer, and it is an indispensable tool. And then there's Python. So Python is a tool which can be used almost everywhere. You want to do data science, use Python and its use library support. You want to do web development tasks, you can use Python as a backend because there are many backend frameworks which are available like Flask and Django. So yes, do go into any avenue you want to explore, but do gain an understanding of C++ and Java and basic data structures and algorithms.
Okay, so Kshitij, I have one more question over here. So I know a lot of my peers actually who dropped out, they planned that they will be doing software development or, SWE, that the profiles that we were talking about previously. But, they back out because they think that the companies won't be opening to their branches. So let's say that we are talking about someone in production or mechanical engineering. So what is your advice to them? So how hard what different they should do in comparison when they're sitting for the same placement offer in comparison to a CS person. So what extra skills should they carry, and how actually, if you can share your experience, if you know someone who has excelled in the same field. So yeah, stage is yours.
Sure, Archit. So, it is definitely, it's relatively harder for a guy from a production environment to get into this, to accept, to back the same offer. That this is because it's a college policy or a company policy that they do not, many companies do not open for non-IT related branches. That is for a fact. But there are some companies who do not, they do not distinguish, or they do not, how do I put it? They do not discriminate between the various branches. They just look at the person. So both type of companies exist. So if you are from a branch which is not CS related, so you definitely need to work harder. You need to sharpen your skills so that if your college or the companies visiting your college don't appreciate or they look down upon the branch that you are from, or their general hiring policy does not favor your branch, then of course you and if it's something you want to pursue, then you can of course apply in the off campus hiring drives which take place. And to take advantage of those off-campus hiring drives, you need to have a CV which backs you up, a LinkedIn profile which is able to tell people that you have what it takes. So, if I may give an example, there is no better example than you, Archit. you have backed the data science role in Fracted, and you have backed the data science role. You have done it an internship at Analytics Vidya. You have again done it at Pharmacy. So what better example can I give?
Okay, sure, sure, Kshitij. I think you can move ahead and let's talk about what advice is preferable at this stage. So let me just put up a question to you. If a person watching this video is in first year, so what is your advice to him if he's watching in the second year, and what is your advice? And remember that he hasn't started the prep yet. So
Yes.
what is your advice at this moment to them that actually you should start? So I think you must be saying that you should start, but how to start? You can just plan a roadmap for them. It would be great.
For sure, for sure. So, if you are a fresher who is just starting out, then pick up any language, be it C++, be it Java. It doesn't matter. Pick up any language. Don't get caught up in your choice for the language. See, I picked up C++. There are many of my friends who picked up Java as their first language, and it doesn't matter. What matters is that as you have picked up the language, please understand as to how the various data structures are coded in that language, how various algorithms are executed in that language. Read more. Take the help of websites like Geeks for Geeks, which offer a vast. They offer a plethora of material. So there's no limit as to what you can learn on the internet. So take an advantage of that. Learn the intricacies of the language. Learn about various good coding practices. So that helps you in writing good, clean code, and that really does leave a good impression in the interviewer's mind. And get a good understanding of, so just for the purpose of repeating, get a good understanding of the data structures and algorithms. It's really indispensable. And secondly, you need a good understanding of the core CS subjects. So operating, object-oriented programming, database management systems, operating system. So interviewers will really grind you in these aspects. So you need to have a good understanding of these subjects. So you can start early, or you can learn them as your curriculum. As and when you encounter these subjects in your curriculum. So a good understanding of these subjects is really important, as it will also help you out in your internships. So these are practical subjects, and these really help you out in your projects. These really help you out in your internships. And the third thing which you need are good projects. See, having good projects increases the scope of discussion, and it gives an assurance to the user, to the interviewer, that you do have some practical experience, and that you have just not, been doing data structures your entire life, your entire college life. So please have good projects. That gives you an edge over other parties, over other interviewees. And the fourth thing that you would need to prepare for is that there might be some questions which might in some way be related to the projects that you have done or the internships that you have done. So you need to be aware of all those points which might come up as questions during that 1 hour interview.
Okay. So Kshitij, before we wrap up the session, I have one more question for you. So, after you got selected into Microsoft, you might have talked to a lot of your peers as well, right? And you remember that there are people who are excellent at everything, academics, internships, projects, and still are not able to clear the interview or the hurdle that is there. So
Yes.
what exactly wrong were they doing, and how can our viewers improve on that? So just the last piece of advice from you.
Sure. So, Archit, there were some of my friends who faced this issue that you were talking about. So, one of the most important things while giving an interview, you might have the best of your knowledge, you might have sharpened it to an extent, to a great extent. But the problem is that there are some things you need to take care of while you are giving the interview. So, the first point that is really important is to ask the right questions. So see, what happens is that the interview might, present you with the problem statement, but he or she might not chart out the entire details. So as to what are the constraints that are involved with the problem. So you need to be clear with those, constraints that are involved in the question, the intricacies of the question, the corner cases which might arise, in the course while you are solving the question. If you are not aware of these, so the algorithm which you might present or the solution that you might present might not be optimal. So supposedly the constraints are very small, but you were not aware of that. So you might waste a lot of your time in devising a really optimized algorithm. But given because you didn't ask the constraints, because the interviewer, it's thought on their part that they do not give you the entire details because they want to see that if you can ask the right questions. So if you are able to ask the right questions, you are aware of the constraints which exist in that question, the intricacies of the question, and hence you are able to give an optimal answer because you are now aware of everything that exists. Ask questions. And the second thing is that you always, whenever you are explaining a question, so there is a medium through which the communication happens. It can be a Google Doc, it can be an IDE, which updates in real time. So in these features, in these tools, please note down all the points that come to your mind in a sequential order because it might happen that the interviewer he or she might have lost some interest because of some office work for a minute or two or a minute or three. So you must have kept rambling on. But if you create a summary of that, if you write down the points in a methodological sequential order, so it's easier for the interviewer to follow through your approach. So that gives really that helps that gives a big plus to you as a candidate. And the third thing which really helps is that there are some companies which the medium of communication or the place where you write your code is a Google Doc. So now the Google Doc does not offer you your the IDE features that you are so used to. So there is no bracket completion. So there is no auto suggest. So it is a really daunting task as a coder to just chart out your entire approach in code. So one thing that you need to be absolutely clear is with that you need to have practice writing code in Google Docs. Because you need to be aware because you need to make the code readable also, so you need to do proper indentation and stuff, and that does not happen in the first try itself. So it's a really daunting task. So please before your interviews just have some practice of writing code in mediums like Google Docs which do not offer you the IDE features that you're so used to.
Okay, perfect, Daman. I think that was a lot of KT sessions from you, the knowledge transfer ones. So I think we are in a good position to now wrap up this session. Any last remarks or last piece of advice you would like to share to our viewers, or we can wrap this up?
Sure, Rachit. The only piece of advice I would say is that please enjoy this journey. Do a good number of questions, have a good command on all the concepts, core CS concepts, build good projects, do some good projects. Please apply for internships, as many internships as you can do before your placement season. Gain some practical experience and enjoy the process. That's all.
Okay. Thank you, Kshitij, for joining us and taking time out of your busy schedule to record this session for our viewers. Thank you very much.
Thanks a lot, Rachit, and thanks a lot for having me here at UpScale Talks.